Good morning, Comets, if you're watching this in the morning, or it could be evening. So, Mr. Tisdale here, and I want to take you through quarter three, and we are on week 2. We are diving into our research unit, and so our first research unit was our first research activity was the 6 things to know. So now we're going to step it up, and we're going to start our bigger project. And so in quarter 3, week 2, you have a Google Slides presentation, which I will go over in this video. And then you have a place to turn in your notes when you have completed the first activity of your lesson. So inside the research instruction Google Slides, I'll go ahead and open that. So our unit is based on a theme called difference makers. And you are going to create several projects that apply to difference makers. And difference makers can come in a couple of ways, and I'll talk to that. What our overall theme and goal is, you are a museum curator, and you're going to create a museum exhibit. And there are 8 things that you'll need to complete for this museum exhibit. And I will talk to you about what your choices are for creating this museum exhibit. All right, so difference makers throughout our world, they can be historical figures. You can go back in time. They can be current figures. You can think of people who are living today. Organizations. What organizations might you know of that have been difference makers? Movements. People are part of movements, so there may not be one individual in that movement that has made a difference throughout our world. So you will get to choose. If you remember, when we first started talking about research, you got a chance to research someone who's made a difference in our world. You can pull up that information, and you could use that also as one of your items when it comes time to create. So as the museum curator, these are some things that you're going to have to look for. Number 1, you'll need 5 sources. Books, magazine, videos, memoirs, interviews, credible websites. I believe in the instructions that are coming up, I've asked you to try not to use more than just 2 or 3 websites. And so I really want you to kind of dig for some books, magazines, videos, anything else that just is different than a website. I love websites. They're easy to find, but I also want you to dig to look for information about your person or movement or organization. Next week, we will work on citing your sources. So I just put a little note there that you may want to save the information that you find, especially where you find it, so you can get back to it when we start to create our Works Cited page. 3 original works. You will create a feature article, you will create a brochure, and you will create an infographic for your museum. So these are 3 of the things that you are going to create for your museum. You also just worked on writing or in recording PDSAs. I also might use that as a original work that you could create for your museum. So here are further instructions, okay? This goes along with the museum and preparing to get everything together that you need for your museum and your research project. So this is coming out of Unit 3. So you're going to write 2 pieces of information contained in each section of Research Interactive Lessons Include. So that's a mouthful of a name, and I'll show you where that is at. This can be found in Unit 3 in Collection Resources in Schoology. I'll show you where that's at before we leave. When you have completed this, you should have 16 pieces of information. Complete this on a Google Doc and turn it in to me. And then I'll show you on the next slide where it's located. Decide on the person, movement, or organization that has changed our world that you would like to research. So that is the second thing you'll do. And the third thing, next, find 5 credible and reliable sources. 3 of these can be websites. So 3 of them can be websites. The other 2 must be a book, video, magazine, interview, etc. Anything I mentioned on the previous slide. Remember what you learned in reading about credible and reliable sources. Week 2, we will set up a works cited page, so make sure you can find the sources again. So these are the 3 things you want to accomplish before Tuesday. And the last thing I'll show you is where your research interactive lessons are included. So here, this is Unit 3 inside your ELA folder. You'll see it. It'll be sticking out. And I'll show it to you before we leave again. And so in Unit 3, there are 2 sections. One says informational and one says research. What you're going to do is you're going to have a Google Doc and you're going to give me 2 things that you learned from each of these sections. So from the introduction, so give me 2 things. Starting your research, give me 2 things. Types of source, 2 things. So there are 8 sections, so by the time you're done, you'll have 16 things written down, and then you will turn those things in to me on the Google Doc. If I go into Schoology to look at this, all right, I'll go all the way out. And so I'm going to Unit 3, Information Literacy. If I open that up, I'm going to go to Unit 3, Collections Resources. And this is the second thing on the list that I'm going to start with. Research interactive lessons included. Okay, currently that is all I have for you right now. If you have questions, you always can get a hold of me through email. You also can get a hold of me through Microsoft Teams.